This is Peace Talks, the podcast that covers everything to do with competitive jigsaw puzzling. Lane Weatherly is the co-founder of Portland Puzzle Company, which, beyond just making great puzzles, hosts a weekly jigsaw puzzling league in Portland, Oregon, and is the founding sponsor for the Portland Jigsaw Masters competition. Lane Weatherly, thank you for joining Peace Talks.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me.
So you are the co-owner of Portland Puzzle Company here in Portland.
I am, with my son, Andrew.
How did you get into making jigsaw puzzles?
Well, that's a great question. How much time do you have?
I got a couple hours. You
Yeah, all right. Originally, I've been in the printing business for many years. And about, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago, my son, who was graduating from school in Florida, he was looking to move to Portland and to go into business. He had a project, and we had talked about doing coasters, like drink coasters, beverage coasters. He was in business school there and did some reports on it. And with my printing background, we said, well, what better place to start a beverage or beer coaster business than Portland? So we did. It was interesting to try. It's very few companies are in that business. While it went really good to begin with, everything kind of came to a screeching halt in the first part of 2020 due to COVID. We thought we had gotten into a recession-proof business because we're thinking, what are people going to do if the economy goes bad? Well, generally the bar business continues to do well, and we're thinking, well, okay, it's recession proof. We don't have to worry about that. Well, we forgot about one thing, and no, we never.
You and the rest
Yeah,
of the world.
we never even envisioned that, and so once that happened, it basically shut down. Oregon was a very shut down state, and so all of our customers definitely went from a good strong business to essentially zero. We would be doing 40 or 50 orders at a time, and then next thing you know, we're doing 3 orders. So it was definitely a shocker. In our business, in our facility, we were kind of in the back of a building, hidden away a little bit. But in the front part of our business was a retail shop, and there was a lady that ran that. She would always come back and say, "Hey, you guys, have y'all thought of this, or you thought of that, or you thought of, you know?" And one time she walked back and she said, "Hey, you guys ever thought of doing puzzles?" And Andrew and I looked at ourselves and go, let's look into it. Thought, well, we could bring my printing experience along, and this would be real easy. Hey, we could get in the puzzle business.
This was after COVID had started that you were having these
Yeah,
conversations?
this was during COVID. So we ended up deciding to try it. Said, well, let's get a puzzle top. Let's get some puzzle board in here. And we ordered a die. It was a 100-piece die, and thought, well, okay, we can go into the puzzle business. So we put it on our press that we had at the time, and sure enough, it completely and totally locked our machine. And we just all looked at each other. It took us about a couple hours to get the machine back off. What we found out was that puzzle dies have such a large amount of steel rolled die in it that the pressure that it takes in order to complete and do a puzzle is enormous. We had a 60-ton machine, and we thought that was a lot. Nope. We found out that we needed at least a 180-ton machine. So It was significantly higher than what we had originally thought. We thought we were getting ready to be in the puzzle business, and found out that the machinery that's made for this is most of it's overseas. What we thought would be 60 to 90 days to get back in business ended up turning out to be more like 8 to 9 months.
I want to go back to something you talked about here a little earlier, which is you talked about cutting the pieces and how that was originally a challenge. But you mentioned a die along the way. I would love it if you tell me a little bit more about what a die is.
Essentially, think of a die as like a cookie cutter. It is very similar process. Once we get the board and the topper laminated together, and they dry and they're basically going to stick together. We then take them and put them inside our die press, which is the press that we've been talking about. And it essentially is a die, a steel rule knife die that is placed upon or on top of the image, and it's essentially slid into a piece of equipment that then comes down and presses with X amount of pressure at a slow rate. Not a It's not like it pounds it, but it definitely comes down at a rate that's going at the same pressure. And once it hits the image, it goes through depending on the pressure sensitive gauge that we can set. It cuts right through the material. And once it cuts through the material, we also have some things inside that that's called ejection rubber. And ejection rubber is sits where you would think the cookie comes out or the die piece comes out, the puzzle piece. And it's there to, once the knife goes down, think of it as a sponge. It goes down and cuts the material, and when it comes back up, this ejection rubber or sponge basically throws the piece back out of the die, so it doesn't stick in there.
Yeah, now you've got me thinking about very sharp cookie cutters, and now I'm all I want are cookies. Where do these dies come from? Do you make them? Do you order them?
We have to order the dies. The knives that we use and the knives in that in the puzzle industry, most of them come from Japan. They're kind of known for knife making. I guess just think of sushi. Again, we're back to food. Yeah, think of those materials, and most of the really high end dies are made there.
Do you have much control over what you want?
Yeah, you can specify your height. There's certain cuts that you can ask for on the dies.
Have you ever thought about experimenting with other shapes?
We do have other
Is
shapes
that right?
that we've got. Yes, we've got circles. We've got pennants. We're a small business, so we're trying our best to get to everything we can. It's a little bit frustrating for us sometimes because we can't just do everything we want all at once. And
Right.
but those are things we're working on.
Do you have to keep the blades sharp, or do they last for only a certain period of time?
No, I that was a great question I had when I got into this was, can we sharpen the blades? Can we keep them? But essentially, you use them until they're done, and there's no real way to sharpen them. So you try to get them to last as long as you can.
And do you know roughly how many puzzles you're likely to get out of one?
Not really. My best guess is probably somewhere in the 10 to 15,000 range.
How many puzzles do you tend to put out a year?
Boy, that's a great question. Right now, we just produce all we can produce, whatever's in the shop. We have the capability of producing, generally, it's about a couple hundred puzzles a day that we can do now with our current equipment, but we are extremely close to pulling the trigger on a much faster machine that will do 5 to 6 times that amount.
That's exciting.
It is, yes. But then you got to pay for the exciting. So
That's right. Exciting and terrifying.
exactly.
The life of a small business.
Yes.
When a puzzle is getting cut, sometimes you get a puzzle that's got really tight fits, not a lot of play between the pieces, and sometimes you get really loose puzzles. Is that something that you have control over?
Um, yes and no. It's all but goes back to the balancing act of pressure. You got to have the right dies. You got to have the right piece of equipment. Like I mentioned earlier, you just can't slam the die in and cut it. It has to be with constant pressure at a certain rate. There's materials. When you glue materials, there's certain ways that you glue them or you don't, and all that plays a factor in how pieces fit together.
Interesting. There's so many variables.
I tell you, I thought when we first got into this that I knew a lot more than I found out that I knew. I wasn't as smart as I thought I
I feel
was.
like that's kind of a requirement for starting a business, though. If you really knew how complicated it would be, you just wouldn't do it.
Oh, you're not kidding. So yes, after 3 years of doing this, we're still learning every day. But for the most part, there's it's been good. We've been able to answer almost all of them.
That's awesome. How many different sizes of puzzles do you make? So I know you don't just do 500s.
No, we have 500. We offer 1,000. We do 250. We do 150. And we just secured some more dies that we are going to be launching here. Is about 10 to 15 more sizes, which go down from
Wow.
four to, yeah, I mean, we're going to do 4x6, 5x7. We're going to do some smaller puzzles. We've got some interesting things coming up. So everybody kind of keep watching us on social media. We'll get into it when we get there.
Are the small ones also with very small pieces, or are they standard piece size, just cut in a?
No, some of them are real big pieces. So
Oh, really?
yeah, you'd be surprised. There's postcards, there's greeting cards, there's all kinds of different ways you can produce a puzzle from.
And are you doing things like micro puzzles, like pieces that are really small in like a 5x7 format?
We haven't, no, we haven't done that. I think we have our hands full of what we got, and but
Have
at
enough
the end of the
ideas.
day, yeah. But at the end of the day, in the future, who we could be doing anything.
Once you've got, I guess, everything set up, how long does it take you to produce a puzzle?
In the early days, we used to go and purchase our what we call toppers.
Just to be clear, when you say the toppers, you mean the image that we're all familiar with.
Correct. The printed sheet on the top. We used to purchase our toppers outside, and then what we have to do with those toppers is we would have to do some laminating to what's called the puzzle backers, which most people who know about puzzles is generally the blue backing, the blue board that's on the back, or sometimes it's gray. But the board that we use is specialized board puzzles. Normally, when you glue chipboard, standard chipboard is done in like little lines or strips. Puzzle board gluing, from my understanding, is done much more on a like a large coverage. There's no spaces where it's not glued, and that's to keep the puzzle board together because it's being cut down to such small pieces.
So, puzzle board is made specifically for puzzles.
Yes, it is. There's the board that we get. It comes from the Netherlands. You can't just walk down the street and buy some chipboard and do it. So there's a lot to it, and these are things that we had to learn. Since then, we brought that process in house. We're now doing everything. We're printing our materials here. We're doing them on a backer that we can put laminate and then put on the boards here in our shop, which has dramatically reduced our turn times. So it's really helped us a lot.
How did you first start working with local artists? Because when I first saw my first Portland puzzle, it was, I think, of the Powell's bookstore here in town. And after having seen a few more of your puzzles, I got the idea that you work with maybe local artists, possibly doing things with around local landmarks and that sort of thing. So how did you end up going that direction?
Well, originally our marketing was geared towards custom puzzles, one-offs. Those were typically people that were, ordering as gifts, which was real good. And we found out we had one artist that came in to ask if, could we turn this into a puzzle? And I can't remember, but he ordered 30 or 40 or 50 puzzles. And next thing you knew, he knew some other people, and kind of word of mouth spread. And we ended up kind of changing a little bit of our marketing to include those groups. And once we kind of focused in a little bit on it, and we were able to also get inquiries from all over, not just the Portland area and Oregon, which that was kind of where it began, just organically. But it's grown since then to where we're having artists from Montana and Colorado and Alaska and California and other areas, mostly in the West. But we're still, we'll take orders from anywhere.
Do you have a specific kinds of either artists or art that sell really well?
Photographers sell real well, and custom art. A lot of times it's when people recognize a location. Oh, I've been there, or I live by there, and I know that spot. And but they do like to put puzzles together of things that they recognize.
So you and Andrew, your son, started off on a beer coaster making adventure. COVID hit, you pivoted into puzzling. You started building that business, you learned a lot, and at some point you decide to host events. How did that come about?
Well, I think the decision to do that was kind of almost made for us. We went into a building that has about half of the building was made for manufacturing, and about the other half was made for an event area or some office space, or it was a large, nice area. We thought we were going to have someone come in to work with us. They were going to start their own business over there, and it ended up that they weren't able to go through and follow through with their ideas. And so we were kind of in a position to where we had some space that needed some use. So Andrew and I knew a little bit, and we've seen a little bit about speed puzzling, and I said that one might be something we could try. So I guess late last year, 2023, we decided to just run a speed puzzling event. We have the good part is we have the ability to manufacture the puzzles. So we just used some of our artists and the puzzles that we were making, and got in it. I think the first event we had three teams come in. We ran just basically off of what we saw, some YouTube events, and we probably did pretty good, but there was certainly a lot of things that we didn't know about or didn't even think about. But we've grown. We've been able to hold on Tuesday nights and on Wednesday nights. Well, Tuesday nights are individuals and pairs, and then on Wednesday nights we run team events. And we've grown. The team events have grown to 80 to 100 people. So
Wow.
there's been a significant growth from that standpoint once got the word out, and it's become really fun.
When did you first start?
First one that we put on was in October of
October.
last year,
And so we're
and
recording
so
this,
this is what June.
yeah, the beginning of
Yeah,
June. So you've gone from a handful of folks to whole rooms
yeah,
full of folks.
yeah. I mean, the best part is we got some really good puzzlers.
So you started off because you had an event space and an idea. What kept you going?
Just that we knew the people wanted to come back. It was growing, and every week we would get people inquiry, are you going to have it? You're going to have this, that, and the other. We just said, yeah, certainly we will. So it allowed us to be able to interact with our customers and people that love puzzling, and it's been good.
Now, you do a couple of things different in your weekly speed puzzle competitions than I would say is typical. First of all, it's a more lively environment. You've got music playing the entire time. People are often singing and dancing along.
That's how we want it.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly how we want it. We want it to be a fun event. We have some really high quality, good speed puzzlers, and then we have some folks that like to come in and just enjoy themselves. So we're trying to find a good balance for that. Be able to give the high quality, fast puzzlers a competitive environment that they enjoy. And we're also giving the family that would like to come in and put together puzzles. We want to walk out and also say, hey, I had a great time.
Another thing that is unusual is that you don't get an image right away necessarily.
That's a decision that is kind of made by the all of us that are here at Portland Puzzle. We try to get a puzzle that is not too hard and then not too easy. There's the balance of that. You're always trying to do your best to meet in the middle. You're not going to make everybody happy because everybody likes different types of
True.
puzzles. Some people love ribbon cut, some people like random cut. Some people like to start, their teams start with borders. Some teams start with colors. Some teams start with shapes. There's all kinds of different strategies and ways that people. These are things that we found out. I didn't know this stuff when we
I
started,
was
but
going to say, I bet you learned a ton about speed puzzling that you'd probably never thought about before.
right, and that's what I tried to preface when we had our first events. I'm saying, hey, bear with us because we're going to make some mistakes. And if you can get through those mistakes, and I mean, we made some of them were like the first few times we'd have a really good event where we had like 10 or 12 teams, and we're thinking, wow, we got a lot of teams here, and so we end up putting out a puzzle that like nobody finishes in an hour and a half, and we're like, why did we do this? And so, yes, we learned a significant amount of how to deal with that, and we still have a ways to go with that. We're contemplating a system on our puzzles, actually, not a scoring system, but kind of a hardness. How hard is the puzzle system? And to go ahead and put that on our puzzles,
Right, because you've got a laboratory.
yeah, and but I'm not able to kind of I can judge somewhat. Andrew can judge somewhat, but a lot of times we'll even ask, the hardcore puzzlers that come in, their opinion because they've done a million times more puzzles than we have.
Interesting. So is there anything that you didn't think was going to be important and turned out to be really important?
Scoring and timing, we kind of had to work our way through some of that. We got to have backups, make sure if something goes wrong, because you want to make sure that people get the proper scoring and timing. We found, that people do like to sit in the same areas, I guess, from lighting standpoints, and
Mhm.
that is another thing too. That lighting is a big piece of speed puzzling, and we've had to work our way through that and try to do the best we can with that.
Yeah, lighting is a particular challenge. It's tough to get right. It almost requires a space be set up for it pretty specifically.
Yeah, it does.
Is there anything that you thought was going to be important for your competitions, but ultimately wasn't that important?
I think one of the first things was is we didn't know what to do when nobody finished. That was because we'd never been apart, and so we were just kind of running by the seat of our pants, and we got to the end of one of the events, and like some people were not going to finish, and we're like, what do we do? Andrew and we were looking at each other, and finally, I think I asked someone, I can't remember who it was. It might have been you or some others that let us know that generally at other events they take and if you have three or more pieces put together, they count. That's something that was just we hadn't even begin to think of, but that's just stuff that had to come up.
It's a more of the learn by doing philosophy that I'm learning from you guys.
I think that's that's probably the fact with Andrew and I were, if we don't know, we just figure we'll figure it out. If you just know that you're going to run into some issue, and you just know that you can figure it out somehow, that's just the way you do it. It's kind of, I guess, like you think about in business too. If you were scared of everything that could go wrong, you would never get started.
Speaking of that, I feel like you guys started hitting your stride. You'd gotten the kinks worked out. You were doing several weekly events. And that was not enough for you, it turns out, because then one day you announced that you're going to do a national level event. So talk a little bit about what drove that decision.
Well, basically, while we were trying to learn speed puzzling for our weekly events, we would go onto YouTube and sit there and look to see what other events were out there because we wanted to know, the right rules. What do you do in this situation and that situation? And so we went on and we found there were a couple of videos on the World Jigsaw Championships, and then there
Mhm.
was, I think, one at the time on the USA one, and there was a few others. And so we went on and started watching those events, trying to figure out which ones were kind of like what we were doing and what were we doing right, and then what were we doing wrong, and then the other parts are what were we thinking, we doing, I think we were doing better. And there was a few things that stuck out in each one of those categories, and so it was all part of building a better speed puzzling event. And once we built that and we kind of watched some of those go on, we thought, we could do that. Back to our thought process too, that we can figure it out if we need to. And so what we found was there was an event in the United States. There's an event in Minnesota in the wintertime, really super event, and we learned a lot from just kind of watching that. And we ended up watching the world events and how they were run, a lot more, I guess, oriented towards the speed puzzlers, and the Minnesota event was speed puzzlers and local puzzlers. And then we also watched the USA group down in California, and they put on a really, really good event. They are well organized, and I can't say enough about how good they do their events in March. So we went down, Andrew and I went down this March to see their second national tournament. And they were very receptive to showing us the ins and outs of how and what they did to put on their event. So we learned a lot from them. And we thought, well, we can do this. And so we knew that there were some pretty good sized gaps in the events.
In terms of the calendar year.
Yeah, yeah. And so we thought, let's pick a date when folks would love to come to Portland. And the middle of the summer is the premier time to be in Oregon for sure. Me being a southerner, the summertime is definitely hot and muggy, and that's one of the parts about coming to Oregon in August is just tremendous. So we thought, well, great weather. Let's see if we can put on a tournament that would be kind of in between the Winterfest and the March tournament, and then the speed puzzling tournament in Spain. We were thinking of it along the lines of a major tournament. Andrew and I are kind of sports nuts, so we like to think of it as in tennis and in golf. There's four majors, and a lot of other tournaments, but there's four majors, and we wanted to put on an event that is on the level of one of the majors. And we consider the worldwide event in Spain, and then the national tournament here in America to be a major event. And we thought we could be a major event. So that's one of the ways that we came up with the name Portland Jigsaw Masters. We wanted to kind of think of it as, just like the how great the tournament is in golf, the Masters. We wanted it to be on the same level for the puzzlers. So we're going to have an awesome event coming up in about 2 months.
Masters famously, if I recall correctly, awards a jacket to the winner.
Yeah,
Are you planning to have jackets?
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. So there may or may not be something that is equivalent to that.
You said that this is a grand event on the scale of the nationals and worlds and the
Yeah.
St. Paul. Tell me a little bit about how should people think about this event? What is the kind of atmosphere? How do you relate it to other competitions that people might have seen?
Well, when we went down to USA tournament, and we loved how they put that on down there, we thought ourselves, we don't want to be an exact 100% mirror when they come to Portland. We just want them. We want them to have a little bit of a different feel, and that doesn't mean that it's a better feel. It doesn't mean that it's just different. It's going to be equally as exciting, equally as energetic, but it's going to be focused on a couple of areas of emphasis for us. We're going to have the speed puzzling portion of that. We have a lot of the very fast puzzlers that go to the USA event uh, coming here to Portland already signed up, ready to go. We have a lot of the big influencers on Instagram and TikTok and all these others, the speed puzzlers and people that are probably listening to this. They know who they are. They're the folks that I think know puzzling through and through. They're coming, but the idea is to also have it become a also very centric on spectators. We want to bring more people into speed puzzling, and the way that we're going to do that is we've invited a lot of what you would call them spectators, or people that are very puzzle oriented. They like puzzles. They may not want to be the fastest in the world, but they want to maybe come through and see the fastest in the world. It's just like golf or anything else. You've got the elite, but there's a whole lot of other people who play for fun, and they're the ones that end up going to golf tournaments. And there's no reason. Speed puzzling is a fantastic event to watch. It's exciting. There's it's like any other race that you have. There's 10 or 12 favorites, and they're out there. Once you start learning these real fast puzzlers, it's just like you know NASCAR or whatever it may be. You have a little bit of a following, and so the spectators that are going to come to this are going to see these people that they watch on these videos, that are speed puzzling in San Diego and speed puzzling in Spain and all over. And it just brings an element of fun to the everyday puzzler that wants to come in. And so we're gonna be really looking forward to making that spectator experience just as good as the experience for the competitive speed puzzler.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, and part of that is we're going to have on Saturday night on August the 3rd. I think it's the 3rd. We're going to have a street fair, and two streets here in Portland are going to be blocked off in front of our shop and between the event center, and we are going to have 40 tents. We're going to have everything from local craft beers to puzzle related vendors, you name it. We've got all kinds of different puzzle related groups coming. So if you're the casual puzzler and the speed puzzler, or you're just somebody who just would like to get involved in it, the street fair is going to be really fun. So we're trying to bring that type of fun element to the experience. And so that's how we might be a little bit different than the Spain or the San Diego event.
Nice. One of the things that I love about this is the other competitions that I have been to or have seen are really focused on the competitors. And I think because that was all of the people who were attending
Yeah.
previously. And the national folks put on a great competition, as you said. And my wife and I, when we went down there, got really excited to watch people puzzle. But the venue wasn't set up really for that. I think it really hadn't become much of a spectator sport until really recently. So I'm excited about the idea of having this kind of more focused on providing us in the audience the ability to experience some of the, because like you said, it is as much fun as watching a race or any other kind of competition where people are performing at the highest level, and there's uncertainty about who will win, given the puzzles and how, like, what the puzzle is that people are working on and team dynamics and all sorts of things. So all the times that I've watched people speed puzzle, it's been very engaging. So I'm excited to hear that you're focusing on the spectator. So do you have some idea of what it is that you'll do to help us spectators be able to engage with what's going on?
Well, I think the design of the puzzle tournament room is going to be a little bit unique. I think we're going to have possibly some grandstands so people can come in. Think of it as a small gym or something like that. One of the things that's going to be very similar to the events in San Diego and Spain, this is going to be live streamed, and we're going to interview and talk a lot about the puzzlers and the speed puzzlers, but we're also going to go out there and talk to the spectators and get their take on it. I think if we talk about or we get these spectators involved, I think that's the way to we can grow speed puzzling. I think they'll tell their friends, "Hey, I watch this," and there'll be a group that want to watch. When we say speed puzzling, it doesn't have to be just the fun of the competitors. There's the fun of the spectators and people that want to be a part of that. When you go to a golf tournament, yeah, there's the fun of the competitors, but there's a whole lot more spectators out there that enjoy watching it, and that kind of drives the sport. And I don't know if we're calling this a sport, speed puzzling or not, but I mean, it has all the elements of a sport to me.
Yeah, my definition of a sport is something that requires a custom piece of clothes. So shoes, swimming suit, that sort of thing.
Well,
So I've yet to see a puzzling glove or puzzling shoes. So doesn't quite meet my definition of a sport, but it certainly has all the engagement of a sport. You're exactly
yeah.
right. In your regular weekly competitions, like we talked about earlier, you've got things like music going on and the reference image coming potentially later. Are these things you're looking to carry over into this bigger competition, or are you going to do things different?
Yeah, I mean, we do a few unique things on our weekly events. We have music, which is a little bit different than I've seen at some of the other speed puzzling events. To us, it doesn't seem to distract anybody. We've never heard any competitors say it's distracting, but it for us, it's been a positive. And the other thing we talked about was the references, and most of the time we make decisions here at our shop whether we should provide a reference or not, or at what point do we provide a reference. It's all basically trying our best to figure out how we can get most of the teams to finish in an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. And we know the best speed puzzling groups are going to be faster than that. We know there's going to be a few that's slower than that, but for the most part, we're trying our best to figure out how the bulk of the competitors can finish between an hour and 15 minutes.
That seems like that could be pretty challenging given
It is.
that, as you said, the people who are the best in the world are really great.
Yes.
They finish really fast. It's like saying you're going to run a 100-yard dash where Usain Bolt and I am both going to be in those things.
Yep.
It's going to be a very much longer time before I pass the finish line
Yep.
than,
It
than
is.
Usain Bolt. So that feels challenging to manage.
It is. But that's part of when you're putting on the tournament. That's our job is to try and figure that out. A lot of it just depends on the conversation that we have here and how hard we think the puzzle is.
You have a co-sponsor of this event. What led to that?
I mean, we have a number of sponsors, but our co-title sponsor with Portland Puzzle is Pomegranate Puzzles, and they're tremendous people to work with. They are a Portland-based company. They are so excited about participating. They love the fact that it's Portland-based, and we can bring people to both of our hometowns to put on a tremendous event. And they're a great puzzle company and really good at what they do. So yes, we're real excited to have them with us.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of pomegranate puzzles. Actually, they have some of my favorite designs. So it's exciting to see them come on board with you guys. Are you splitting up the puzzle duty? Like, is some
Yes, yeah, they're taking on some of the puzzles, and we are too. So they're going to be puzzles manufactured by us and by them. We're going to have our artist, and they're hoping to have their artist available at the
oh
tournament.
nice.
If you're here, you get to meet them. They're very personable people. It's great.
You're doing individuals, pairs, and teams events?
Yes, exactly. One of the things that with the USA group and the Spanish or the World group in Spain, we wanted to keep most of the elements the same. It's like a golf tournament. Generally you're going to play 18 holes, and the holes might be a little bit different, but they're essentially the rules are basically the same. We don't want to deviate far from that. There may be a nuance here, like in a baseball stadium, you have an outfield configuration that might be slightly different. But at the end of the day, the game is the game. Speed puzzling is who can put the puzzle together the fastest, and that part stays the same. We may have a few little things that are different here, but for the most part, it's a speed puzzling event, and you're here to win a tournament and a championship. This the first year is going to be a learning experience for everybody, including us. But the second and the third and the fourth year, I really see this as becoming a go-to event for the speed puzzlers, a go-to event for the spectators, and who knows where we can take it. We're gonna find out.
Again, the spirit of adventure that has defined you guys so far. One of the places that we do see some variation in approach is with teams. Do you have a sense of how you're going to approach teams in terms of whether it's one or multiple puzzles of certain piece counts or anything like that?
Believe it or not, we're still talking about that here, as to how we're going to lay that out and how we're actually going to do it. Um, I know that everybody who's coming likes to practice, likes to know as much as they can ahead of time, and it's not for any real reason that we're trying to not say that we're going to do this or that. We're just trying our best to make the best decision with the most information, and we're waiting for all the facts to come in order for us to try to put the best thing together. So there's no hidden agenda or anything like that. It's just we're trying to do our best.
So people should follow your social media or the Portland Jigsaw Masters website.
Yeah, as soon as we know those pieces, we are going to let everybody know.
You've got a tournament pass as part of this. Tell me what that's all about. When I was talking to Ali Krasny last time, she was talking about people didn't know what it was in a tournament pass, at least the first year around, and weren't aware of the kind of things that you get as part of that. It looked like you're offering such a thing. If so, tell me a little about it.
Well, a little bit different. So obviously, that's one of the things that we've found is the same thing that I think she's found is what is a tournament pass and what do we get with that. When we first started, we kind of went along the same lines of what they were doing in San Diego with the tournament pass. I think it's kind of evolved here a little bit. There is a possibility that we're going to eliminate the tournament pass here. And as part of that is we're just going to make it a full fan experience. So we're thinking that the tournament pass might evolve or become more of a spectator pass, and the spectators get access to everything. We want them to have the access to the vendors. We want them to have access to the street fairs. We want them to have access to the artists. The idea is to give everybody access that we can, especially the spectators that come in. We want them to leave thinking that they have been a full part of the experience.
Again, follow your social media and your website. I feel like I'm remiss at this point by not letting you tell us what those are. How do people find out more about this event?
A lot of the information goes on at Portland Puzzle, but we also have a separate Instagram page called the Portland Jigsaw Masters. You can also go on, there's portlandjigsawmasters.org. You can go on those, you can kind of see what's going on. We're updating them as we can. I think we're a lot like the ladies down in San Diego. We have regular jobs and we're trying to put on a tournament on top of it. So we get to it when we can. we would love to be a lot more quick about it. The other part is it's also about your first year of doing this. Uh, Next year we'll have all this stuff in place, and we'll be able to just fine tune that. Right now we're having to put everything together, and it's just there's there's a lot to it.
Speaking of fine tuning, this last weekend you ran a kind of mini version of this as a test run. How did that go?
It went great. We wanted to make sure that we fleshed out a couple of things that might come up that we hadn't thought about, and we did. We ran a little mini tournament or dry run tournament, and had pairs and individuals and teams, and tried to simulate. We were in the same room that the tournament's going to be in. We tried to simulate as best we could the tournament atmosphere, and I think we had a really good reaction, and we're excited about what I think we can make even better.
Nice. Is there anything that you came away with as things that you felt like you nailed, and other things that felt like they maybe needed some more attention?
Well, one of the things that we didn't have at the little mini tournament is that live streaming, and the company that we're working with, they are going to have a very dynamic scoring and timing system that's also going to be projected. There's going to be a lot of projections up on the walls of the event
Cool.
center, and those are going to be clocks and timing, and not distracting events. Think of yourself at a basketball game, and you're going to have a lot of you look up at a scoreboard and you're going to see what's going on. We've talked about doing some things like different camera angles, things that we think can make the spectator experience better. Speed puzzlers are going to be in there doing their thing. The stuff that's going to go on is not going to be affect them, because they're focused on one thing, and that's what there should be. But for the person that's in the grandstand there, it's going to be nice to be able to kind of say, well, this group is looks like they're leading, this group looks like they're next, and then who these people are, because they become superstars at the speed puzzling, and it's just becoming a really fun event.
So, all right. So remind us all when this is.
This is the weekend of the first weekend in August, Friday the 2nd, the 3rd, and then the 4th. It's going to be a very Portlandia atmosphere. We're going to show a good part of the city and what we're doing. There's 3 hotels that we've lined up. We're going to have a shuttle bus that's going to run back and forth, so you don't have to rent a car. You don't have to worry about parking. You're going to just come in here, and it's going to be speed puzzling, and you're going to have fun. And then when you leave, you're going to go, I'm coming back next year.
Well, I think that I can't think of a better note to end on there. Lane Weatherly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Ron.
Thanks for listening to Peace Talks. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at peace_talks, and you can send email to peacetalkscast@gmail.com.